Welcome to Art Book Nook. My name is Kay, where I share with you my incredible collection of art and craft books. In this video, I'm sharing a lovely book by the British artist Jeremy Ford called Painting Pastel Landscapes. Jeremy is, in many ways, the reason I ever picked up pastels again. I'd tried them many years ago, and I really disliked the whole experience. Chalky pigments on flimsy paper that had the texture of orange peel. It wasn't exactly inspiring. But a workshop with Jeremy changed everything. I'd recently left a job and my colleagues had very kindly gifted me some money as a farewell present. My intention was to buy a painting to mark my time working with them, but I couldn't find anything I liked within my budget. Then I spotted a workshop at the SAA in Newark with Jeremy Ford. The subject happened to be a winter landscape, which is one of my favourite themes and is probably what attracted me to the workshop in the first place. Well, all the materials were provided, so I thought, well, I've nothing to lose. But that was it. I was absolutely hooked. I fell in love with pastels that day. All thanks to Jeremy. And here is the painting I created during that workshop. I must stress that this is entirely Jeremy Ford's copyright. I worked from a reference photograph he provided and followed his step-by-step instruction and guidance on the day. I just love the subdued colour palette and the calm, peaceful atmosphere. And rather fittingly, on the back cover it says, "Ever thought that pastels weren't for you? It's time to reconsider." So his book is packed full of useful techniques and 5 inspiring step-by-step projects, building from simple, easy-to-follow exercises to more challenging subjects. Jeremy has been fortunate to work as an artist all his life, and he always says it's a real pleasure to pass on his knowledge to others. One of the joys of pastels is that you can start and stop whenever you like. There's no pressure, no time pressure, no need to rush and no drying time to consider. Pastels are often thought of as a messy medium, but Jeremy doesn't see them that way at all, and this book shows just how clean and enjoyable they can be. He hopes it will fire up your enthusiasm and fill you with ideas for creating your own pastel masterpieces. Pastels are often referred to as chalk pastels, but they're not chalk at all. They're made from pure pigment powder combined with a binder, no different in that respect from watercolour, oils or acrylics. Manufacturers vary, of course, and you'll find a whole range of consistencies. Some pastels are wonderfully soft and buttery, while others are firmer, almost like a pencil, but both have their uses. They come in a mouth-watering array of colours, and you can blend them together to create even more subtle variations. Many brands offer themed sets such as landscape, floral or portrait, which collate colours together suited to those subjects. It's a really economical way to begin without feeling overwhelmed. Pastel pencils are really helpful for fine details, while oil pastels, as the name suggests, use an oil-based binder and they have a waxy, creamy feel. There are a wide range of surfaces available for pastel work, and this is where Jeremy's workshop was a real game changer for me. He introduced me to pastel mat, and I've never looked back. It's Jeremy's own preferred surface for working on, and for good reason. Pastel mat is smooth, robust and thick like a piece of card, and it's been especially developed for pastel artists. You can even apply a wash by laying down pastel pigment and activating it with alcohol or water, and it won't warp or buckle. That's great fun. I really enjoy doing that. It grips the pastel beautifully, allowing you to build up many layers before the tooth finally fills in, and the pigment blends easily as well. Jeremy includes examples of the effects you can achieve on different types of paper on the right-hand page, which is extremely helpful. Vela paper really does feel like velvet and is very good for painting animal fur. Pastel papers come in a wide range of colours, and you can really use this to your advantage. Jeremy does exactly this in the 3 examples shown here. In the beach scene, he's left small areas of the paper showing through to form the sand and the cloud shadows. In the top right example, horizontal stretches of mid-tone paper represent the wet sand, and bottom right, the dark brown colour gives him a deep, rich, shadowy base to work into. It's similar to the way you might leave areas of white paper when working in watercolour, allowing the paper to do some of the work for you. Jeremy lists the basic tools and equipment you'll need, including a short discussion on the rather controversial use of fixative, something he rarely uses himself. He also talks about alcohol, which, as I mentioned earlier, can be brushed on sparingly to create a wash or an underpainting. In that context, it acts almost like a fixative, helping to set the pastel before you continue working over the top. The trouble with pastels is that your collection will never stop growing. You start with a small selection, and before you know it, you're running out of space. Jeremy stores his own pastels in a layered wooden box with compartments, which allows him to separate the colours. It's a practical solution that keeps everything visible. Mounting and framing are, for Jeremy, absolutely essential. They make a remarkable difference to whether a piece sells or not. He prefers to triple mount his work. The third mount sits invisibly behind the front two and will catch tiny flecks of pastel dust that might fall. He's also careful never to place the pastel painting face down, just in case any loose particles settle onto the glass. For the frame itself, Jeremy chooses light, delicate mounts with a plain neutral frame, so the attention stays on the artwork rather than the presentation. Simple light frames are generally unobtrusive. They don't offend anyone, and they allow the painting to speak for itself. Now we come to a really exciting part, mark making. You can create so many interesting effects simply by varying how you apply the pigment with a pastel stick. The size and shape of the stick will determine the kind of marks you can make. Using the tip, you can draw a clean line, adjusting the thickness by applying more or less pressure. Little dots or blobs of colour, almost like pointillism, can suggest leaves and stones. And of course you can use the full length of the stick on its side to cover large areas in a single stroke. When pastels are new, they're often round, especially the handmade ones. But as you work, you can shape them naturally. Turning the stick while covering broad areas will create a sharp edge, which is really good for grasses, fence wires, and little slender lines that will help bring a landscape to life. Flaking is a really fun technique, especially for splashes of water, as you can see in the waterfall example here. It's also perfect for sea spray and snow. Anywhere where you need a sense of movement and light catching tiny particles. Pastel shapers are another useful tool. They're made from flexible plastic and come in a range of sizes and shapes. You can use them to blend areas of your work, helping objects appear more three-dimensional. And if you need a very fine line, you can simply touch the shaper to the edge of your pastel stick and pick up a little bit of the pigment. It's like dipping a brush into paint, and that will give you a surprising amount of control. Low-tack masking tape is really useful for creating crisp, sharp edges, such as distant horizon lines or masts on boats. In 2019, I took part in Sky Art's Landscape Artist of the Year. I was a wild card, and here I am trying to get a crisp straight line using masking tape while trying to paint the Gateshead Millennium Bridge. Pastel pencils allow you to achieve much greater precision than a pastel stick. Jeremy suggests beginning with very light pressure and only increasing it if your lines aren't clear enough. This approach gives you far more control. It's how he created the fine branches and twigs as well as some of the delicate details on the figures in the painting shown bottom left. This is the same image used on the front cover of this book. Everyone makes mistakes from time to time, but the important thing is knowing how to put them right. Jeremy demonstrates several ways to remove pastel, brushing it away gently, lifting it with low-tack masking tape, and using alcohol, which seals the surface so you can work back over it. Blending can be achieved in two ways, rough or smooth, each producing a different optical effect. Both methods can be used to lighten or darken a colour, depending on how you layer and mix the pastel. and here is a simple exercise where you can paint a landscape using both blending techniques. Jeremy also explains how to naturalise colours when they appear a little too vivid. If you look at the two tree studies on the bottom left, the smaller tree is slightly garish and not especially convincing. To remedy this, Jeremy overlaid yellows along with paler and darker greens to create a richer, more natural looking result. Underpainting is great fun and gives your initial base colours a painterly quality. A brush dipped in alcohol will move the pastel around just like paint, allowing you to create beautiful wash effects. Once it's dry, the pastel is sealed into the paper and won't rub off, giving you a stable surface to continue working into. The Road to La Roque is one of Jeremy's favourite pastel pictures because of this underlying painterly style. The remainder of Jeremy's book is mainly devoted to detailed step-by-step projects for you to enjoy, all illustrated with clear photographs. So for these pages, I'll let the pictures speak for themselves, accompanied by some pretty music, but I'll step in to narrate only where I think it's helpful. We begin with a fabulous painting of Northern Lights. If you're new to pastels, you may only have a modest selection of colours to begin with, but that's fine, because you can add to your collection gradually, and remember that you can always mix colours directly on the paper to create all sorts of colour variations. Jeremy recommends having a few good greys, as well as a range of tonal values within each colour group. A useful exercise is to paint the same subject at different times of day and observe how the colours shift. The painting top left was done in the morning, while the one bottom left was painted in the late afternoon. Monet famously explored this idea in his many haystack paintings, capturing the same scene over and over again under changing light. The mood of a picture is shaped largely by the colours and tonal values you choose. Creating atmosphere is closely linked to establishing light, dark and overall mood. Here Jeremy includes an atmospheric gallery of several of his own paintings to illustrate this, followed by a demonstration called After the Storm. Often it's the sky that creates the atmosphere in a painting, and of course there are countless types of skies and just as many ways to paint them. Jeremy shares his techniques for painting a clear sky with barely any cloud cover to one that's filled with lots of white fluffy clouds. Here you'll find a gallery of some of Jeremy's beautiful cloud studies, along with a mini project showing you how to paint sunsets and sunrises. This leads into a more comprehensive demonstration of a sky-focused piece called Snowy Lane. Wow, this is something really special, isn't it? To bring a landscape to life, we need to include elements such as trees and water. Jeremy always keeps a collection of good reference material, sketches, photographs and colour notes. He explains how he created the effect of water in each of these 4 paintings, demonstrating just how varied and expressive water can be in pastel. Reflections are essentially mirror images which may or may not be distorted depending on how much the water is moving. In this demonstration, Jeremy includes both still and rippled water, so you'll get plenty of opportunity to practice each effect. The quality of his step-by-step demonstrations really is superb. When painting a waterfall, the direction of the falling water can be suggested simply by using your pastel stick in the same direction. I've never painted a waterfall myself, but it's something I'm very keen to try. We all know what trees look like until we actually need to draw them. There are so many different types that Jeremy could probably fill an entire book with trees alone, so here he provides 2 small projects to get you started: bare winter trees and full summer trees heavily laden with leaves. Which leads us nicely into the next project, an autumn scene with trees reflected in water. Just look at how Jeremy has rendered the leaves on the ground. It's so realistic. I've been out walking today with Tinker and it's autumn time here, and the leaves on the ground are just like that. When working from photographs or sketches, Jeremy advises that you don't need to copy them exactly. Treat them as a guide. In the photograph top left, he felt there was a little too much drama and contrast, so he used it simply as a starting point and created the warm mellow painting below. Jeremy often changes his mind as he works too. In the sunset painting top right, he chose to leave out the posts. A reminder you can always adjust and simplify to suit the mood you want to create. To create the illusion of depth, the intensity of colour tones weakens in the distance, a principle known as aerial perspective. Jeremy cautions against adding too much detail, otherwise the eye doesn't know where to settle. He also reminds us to be mindful of scale, as objects naturally appear smaller the further away they are. Colour plays an important part too. Using high chroma colours everywhere will flatten a painting, so it's important to vary the tonal strength and soften the edges of distant objects. This slight haziness helps create that feeling of atmosphere and space. This is a lovely painting of a summer meadow, isn't it? Jeremy moves on to explain linear perspective here, which differs from the aerial perspective we've just looked at. He demonstrates a high horizon line in his beautiful evening sky painting and a low horizon line in his seascape. Seeing the two side by side makes the principles easy to understand. The height of the horizon changes the viewer's eye level and completely alters the feeling of the scene. In the final project in Jeremy's wonderful book, you'll bring together many of the techniques he's shown you and combine them to create this lovely piece, a summer meadow of your own. In painting pastel landscapes, Jeremy doesn't just share techniques, he explains the thinking behind them, and he does this with such clarity, it's almost as if you're standing beside him in a workshop. So whether you're completely new to pastels or you've been experimenting for a while, I think there's something in his book that will develop your skills and your confidence. What I appreciate most is how practical Jeremy's book is. Every page has something you can try, a small exercise, and the step-by-step projects really pull everything together. If you enjoy painting landscapes and want to explore what pastels can really do, I think this book is an excellent place to start. Personally, I've found pastels to be the easiest medium to work with, and I certainly don't consider myself to be a great artist. Here are a few of my own paintings, and as I said at the very beginning of this video, if it weren't for Jeremy Ford, I would never have appreciated just how wonderful pastels can be. In the description below, I've linked to Jeremy's website, where you can see more of his wonderful paintings and find details of his forthcoming workshops. I've also included a link to his Facebook page and several YouTube videos, including an interview and demonstrations. You'll notice he applies pastel with a very light touch, and he often works with a surprisingly small selection of colours. So thank you for spending this time with me, I really do appreciate it. And if you've enjoyed this video, giving it a like or even a hype really helps my channel to grow more than you might think. I'd love to know what you think of this lovely book, and if you haven't used pastels before, has it inspired you to give them a try? So please leave me a comment below. I always enjoy reading them and I reply to every single one. If there's a book you'd like me to review for you in future, just let me know. So until next time, happy painting.